So I just wanted to mention a couple of things as we get started. Everyone is listed in listen-only mode right now, which means that you're not able to speak. But if you have questions, please use the raise your hand feature on the webinar, and we'll keep an eye out for questions. And then we will leave about 15 minutes at the end of the webinar for questions and answers. So also keep in mind that we are recording this webinar, so if you prefer that your question not be asked by you over the phone, you can chat your question into the chat box, and we will be monitoring the chat box for questions and let our presenter know what those questions are. At the end of the webinar today, when we close out the webinar, a screen will pop up on your computer for an evaluation. And we'd really appreciate it if you would fill out the evaluation at the end of the webinar. And we're very interested to know how you thought this webinar went, if you had specific questions about the webinar, and also if you have topics for future webinars. We are doing monthly webinars, and we would really like to be able to include topics that are of interest to all families. So please let us know if you have some ideas about topics that we can include. So I'm very happy to have our presenter with us today, Ms. Rebecca Schlew, who's going to be presenting this great topic. Rebecca has years and years of experience, which she's going to talk a little bit about, and she will share some practical information with you that I think will be very helpful as you're thinking about this coming school year with your children. So thank you very much, and Rebecca, please take it away.
I'm really glad that you're here with me today. So, Caroline, I'm not able to forward the slide here.
I think you were on mute. I apologize. I think you were on mute. You missed the very beginning. I apologize.
Not a problem. I can repeat that little part. Hello again. I'm Rebecca Schlew. I am a parent, an advocate, and a seasoned IEP member and staff of Family Voices, and I'm really glad to be here today. We're going to talk about IEPs, one of our favorite subjects, but remember, you have an equal voice. Thank you. In our purpose today, we'll be sharing tips and tools about setting an agenda, staying on task, and getting your IEP to truly reflect the goals and objectives for your child, and this is going to be done through good communication. This is my daughter, Chloe. She's now 24. She's living in community model housing, which is housing her own apartment, which has support. And she has a job, and she is one busy girl. So we've been through lots and lots of IEP meetings, over 25. And we've made it through all those IEP meetings. Some were better than others. Some were fantastic. But a lot of it was that communication piece and knowing that we were in it for the long run, because our outcome is to make sure that our daughter has the best education that she can have in the special education setting. So the IEP process, a big part of it is what do you expect? I know a lot of us go to those IEP meetings kind of turning over everything to those staff and professionals that we think they have all the answers. We do expect them to think that they want to do the best for our child, and that usually happens, but not always. I want you to know that you can be that person. You can know what the needs are. You can answer the questions. You can be the leader through the IEP process. A lot of the IEP process is like family-centered care or patient-centered care. It's not something that should be done to us. It's something that should be done with us. You may ask, why me? Why am I supposed to be this leader? Well, that basic is a lot of it because you know your child best. Yes, it can seem like a lot to know, handle, facilitate, and follow up on, but it's like so many other things that we, as parents of children with special health care needs and disabilities, do. We learn it, we do it, and we get better at it as we practice. The IEP process will be part of our lives from birth, if any of you who have been in that birth to 3 program, through age 21 if you're doing an 18 to 21 transition program. If those programs are available, you got a long haul going here, and you can be successful and comfortable, and actually you may even be able to enjoy the process. A lot of this is where to start. I honestly think that the best place to start is to know what your rights are. You can always go back to this. This should be like your mantra. If you go to the Google this or whatever browser you use, Minnesota Department of Education, and in that little search box, do parental rights. And there you will have what your parental rights are. You might want to bookmark this or print it. So when you know what your rights are, you can be that guidepost for working with schools in the IEP process. It does a nice job of outlining what a lot of the procedures are, and including those ones about informed consent and procedures if you disagree with the district, which may happen. The Minnesota Department of Education also has information in regard to 504. Now, a 504 is not special education, but it is general education. And many times the 504 is administered by staff in the special education department. So I just want you to know that so you're not confused if you get a 504 and think it's special ed. There are different rules and rights to a 504. So know what you need to know and how to contact them. As I said, communication is a huge piece of all of this. So if you need to find out who these people are, and it's so important, I know many people have said, I've asked maybe who is your child's case manager or special education teacher, and they're not sure of the name. A lot of times there is team teaching. Your child moves from many different classrooms and such. But it's good to know who that one contact person is for where to start. You should also know who your regular ed teacher is, the principal, the specialist, music, phy-ed, media, speech, OT, PT, all of these different people at different levels. If you're not sure, you can call the school, you can meet with the teacher and ask for the information. Many schools have websites that will have a staff listing or school listing. And always in this process, if you get a direct number from someone, where they say, here, you can call me at, make sure you write it down. Know who to talk to with, and only move up the ladder when you need to. If there is an issue or a problem or you're not getting the results you had hoped for and you want to talk to the next person in the ladder of leadership, don't always start at the top. Go through channels because someone may have your answer on a level that they may be more easily reached. Preparing for an IEP meeting. Like so many things in our lives, preparation is the key to success. Here we have another one from the Minnesota Department of Education. If you do Minnesota Department of EDU, and then again in the search box, how to prepare for a facilitated team meeting. This is a great resource. This is another one to bookmark or to print out. In this, you'll have a little outline of before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. And it really does ensure that IEP meetings can run as smoothly as possible. One thing they do talk about this in the preparation for the meeting is to decide when is the best time or best age for your student to participate in the IEP meeting. For us, it was around 3rd grade that we had our daughter sit in during the introductions of the IEP meeting. And after that, then she could go back to her classroom. I wanted her to know that we were there to support her and that we were talking about her. And that we could talk about things at school because we had a whole team that was helping her. Another thing, when she was about in 6th grade, which was a bigger transition in our district at the time, she was part of the meeting. She sat into the meeting until we started talking about test scores and such that were things I didn't feel she needed to share. Low percentiles, things like that, at that point that we had excused her. So that was just in preparation to know what I wanted. And in this, then I'm going to look at these things from the Department of Ed. A big part of this is keeping a written log of all your calls, requests, names, phone numbers, anyone you've talked to. If you've got a notebook, a log, a binder, an app on your phone, any place that you would be able to easily add information to it so you can call back someone that they said, well, we can do that and we'll send it to you next week. Well, if you have it on your calendar and next week you want to call to follow up on it, you'll have that information. I know that sounds like one of those easy things, but in our very busy lives, sometimes it's not always easy to remember who we talked to, what phone number we used, and what we had asked for. I think an important part here is that you can prepare an agenda and you can share it with the staff. An agenda is something that you would write up and you could share with the case manager or whoever will be running the meeting. It's a good way to make sure that what you want to get discussed will get discussed, and any questions, specific questions that you have, will get answered. Just like when you go to the doctor's office, bring a list of questions, because you know how it goes when you get in that meeting. Sometimes everything just flies out of your head. Something else is many times there are goals, needs, wants. Part of the goals thing is they may ask you, and I remember at one of our early IEP meetings I was asked, well, Rebecca, what are your goals today? And I truthfully said, well, my goal today is not to cry at this IEP meeting. And it was true at the time, but as I got better about it, I knew what the goals were for my child that I wanted to share. Also know that your goals and needs and wants, you will not always get what you want. We don't in life. We're not going to an IEP meeting. But this is where you have that communication piece so you can have a discussion about what you feel is important, what you feel is necessary, what the school has to offer, and how the two of you can make it work together. There will be staff and budget issues. There always are. Know that ahead of time, and then know that you'll be able to manage, think these things through, and work out a solution. Not my problem. I've used that line many times. I've been told, well, we can't do that because, and I've had to say, well, that's not my problem, but I'm expecting that you will be able to work it out and let me know what the results are. But you will have to choose when you say that that's not my problem, because sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. When you prepare for an IEP meeting, I think one of the really helpful things too is to bring someone with you, someone you know and trust and love, that extra set of eyes, ears, and notes are really important. They don't have to say anything. They just need to be there for support. For example, a conversation, you'll say, well, no, school said we're not going to do that, and maybe your other person who's there at the meeting says, well, in my notes they had stated that they could do this or that. Or I'll even say, oh, did we talk about that? And that person who was with me can say, yes, we addressed that issue and they're going to get back to us. So it's nice to have that other set of eyes, ears, and notes. Make sure you invite everyone you would like to have at the meeting. And this really is your choice. This is the people that you feel are important and can address your child's needs. Your child's school paraprofessional, the school nurse, your primary care physician, specialty care, child care providers, other family members, all those people who are important in your child's life. I hear many, many times that schools say, oh no, we don't invite the paraprofessional. That may be true, but school's not inviting them. You are. It is within your rights to invite whoever you want. School may say, well, we can't pay them. They can't be invited. Maybe you need to schedule when the para is able to come, maybe after school or before school, and be able to be prepared that if you show up at the IEP meeting and the paraprofessional is not available, that you reschedule the IEP meeting. If you feel that is truly the most important thing to have at that meeting, then ask for a reschedule. For me, many times I did ask that the para came, and every time the paraprofessional was invited, they were able to attend. The para spent more time with my child than anyone else in the building. So that person had the most input, suggestions, education, what was working, what wasn't working, behaviors. So to invite that paraprofessional, know the reasons why you want them, what you expect out of that para to be there, and insist that it happen because it is within your rights. Well, we're still preparing for the IEP meeting. Is the IEP at a good time of the year for you and your child? Think of this as you look at test scores, grades, any other things that may have been collected as data for your child. You can choose when your child's IEP meeting is. At one point, our IEP meeting was always in the beginning of October. Well, my daughter hadn't even gotten used to the building or her para or where music was. There weren't a lot of test scores to see that educationally she was meeting her goals and objectives. Also, a big part for my daughter was regression and recoupment. So I asked to move the IEP meeting to the beginning of February. So we had a couple of school breaks over Thanksgiving, over Christmas. That New Year, they do a lot of testing again in January. We had those scores ready. And so when we had that IEP in February, we were able to readjust through the school year that was current and make plans for the following school year that was upcoming. Also, we had regression and recoupment data that helped us make decisions about ESY, or summer, what some people refer to as summer school. Sometimes, this is one of my things that I've never quite understood what happens. Have you ever been at your IEP meeting and they put down an IEP in front of you that's just warm off the copier and say, there you go, here it is. I think if we as concerned parents, plugged-in parents, keep insisting that this IEP meeting is a draft. I need to see a draft of the IEP before the meeting date because my husband and I need time to review it. I don't want to be flipping through pages and trying to read during the meeting when everyone else there has seen all the information and has made decisions. I very strongly have asked for a draft of an IEP meeting before the date so that I had time to review it. Sometimes I was accommodated on this, other times I wasn't. But I think as I continued to ask, they grew to know that I was going to ask for the IEP because it's a draft. It's not a final thing. It's there to have a discussion for the whole team with you as that lead team person being there for input and yes and no's, recommendations, changes. All of that happens. Then at that IEP, once the changes, additions, and everything have all been made, then you will get a new copy, and that'll be the signature copy that you have. Again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So as you go through this process of preparing, really strive to build a bridge, don't burn the bridge. We've had some great webinars, as Carolyn mentioned at the beginning of this, and one that we've had that I'm really thinking is a great tie-in is the care mapping one that we had on July 23rd. You can go to the Family Voices Minnesota website, and it has been archived there. Care mapping was a great resource that was a visual example that showed who is at the center and everything and everyone in the community that it takes to care for our children and for our families. And I think this, if you've done care mapping, it'd be a great thing to bring to your IEP meeting to show as a visual example to others what all it takes in your lives to support your child. Another webinar that we have coming up on August 16th, which is next Thursday, a week from Thursday, is serving on advisory committees. So to be a partner within that advisory committee, to have your voice heard would be an important piece in the IEP process and other school functions. So check the website and sign up for our webinar on the 16th also. I think it would be a good one. So from preparation, now we're moving on to during the IEP. The hardest part is being on time, and second hardest is being patient. But those are two things that I think will help set the tone for the meeting. Please ask for introductions when you get to the meeting, that everyone either introduces themselves and their title and why you're there. One person that really must be there is the person who is the administrative designee. And what the administrative designee does is they are the person who actually has the power, basically, to make decisions. If you're asking for something at this meeting and the school says, I'm sorry, we can't do that, they actually have the information to deny, say it's not available, etc. That doesn't mean it won't happen. You can have further conversation with the designee. But to know that this person is supposed to know the special ed laws and rules, the school budget, issues, and staffing, and should be able to make those decisions. If the administrative designee is not there, I would strongly suggest stating that you would just need to reschedule the IEP. Because if that person isn't there, you don't have an administrator to make these decisions. Another thing, if you've done an agenda and you've shared it with maybe your case manager or whoever, make sure that all the attendees know that you have an agenda there. And this enables you to be the facilitator at this meeting. It enables you to stay on task with the things that you feel are important that must really get addressed at this meeting. So it's always nice to have that written note of an agenda and kind of your backup. Something else that I think happens a lot at times at an IEP meeting, I know I've I've been to a meeting and they're rattling through test scores and examples, and my daughter was always at the 1 percentile or below the 1 percentile. It's hard to listen to sometimes. But know that you can ask for a break. If you're able to just say, I need 2 minutes, I'm going to step out, I'll be right back. And that's okay, you can do that. If things are getting really confusing, too much is going on, if you're feeling really emotional, step out of the room, close the door, take 2 minutes, review your agenda, know where you want to get back on pace, and then go back into the room. Another thing with the school language, make sure you ask questions. So many times it's kind of that alphabet soup, but the terminology, the timelines, or why is there a specific goal that's been added to the IEP? What are the timelines involved? When did you need to have signatures done? By when do you need additional information? And when decisions will be made about the choices or changes. If you ask about something, ask for a timeline or a deadline to know that that's the point, if you haven't heard, that you'll follow up again and get an answer. It may not be the answer you want, but you will have the answer and you'll be able to move on. Many times I think parents are asked to participate on committees and councils, but they're the only ones at the table who aren't getting compensated. They're not being paid by their employers and such. But make sure that when you fill out forms and stuff, that how many times I've gotten a form which required me to call someone to learn how to fill it out. So again, that support piece and readjustment. So during the IEP meeting, I do have to say the best question I've ever asked is, could you please describe for me in detail what will my child's day look like? When I talk about that, I ask or will guide them or ask additional questions. They may say, well, she'll be in this classroom and be doing this or that. But as I go through it, I might ask more of, like, what does inclusion look like throughout the day? If an inclusion is a part of your world, can we advance the slide? Thank you. What does inclusion look like? To me, inclusion was spending as much time with her peers, that my daughter would be in the same classroom, that she would move with her peers through the hallways, that she would eat lunch at the same table with her other kids. When they're saying, well, she'll go to special, she'll go to music, she'll go to Phi-Ed. My question was, who will she be going with? Will the paraprofessional be there? When she gets directions, are they written directions? Does someone sign for her? Does someone, has she been assigned a class peer or a paraprofessional for these? Another one that I've heard from other families is, who will my child eat lunch with and where? That another school district had all their kids with special needs of a certain grade sit at a certain table so one paraprofessional could assist the children. To me, that's not very much what inclusion looks like. Also, so many of our kids learn through social interaction that if this is how we're supposed to react and act at lunch, then she should be with her grade level peers to know what is age appropriate. Another thing of when describing your child's day, listen for things like, how often is music and Phi-Ed? Is it twice a week, once a week? Is that music teacher aware of what's on my child's IEP for any accommodations or modifications? How is that shared with other staff? The media person was a big part of my daughter's life. She was sent to the library and to the media person many times to get additional information, things that could be modified to a screen. Music was a big part of her life, getting music at media and getting music through the music teacher. Another big part of that was if my child had speech, OT, PT, etc., what classes was she pulled out of? Was she missing reading to go to speech? Was she missing science to go to PT? Those decisions, yes, a lot of it is scheduling, but what was most important for my child at the time? For us, it was, we felt that if she was a good reader, if she was the best reader that she could be, that would be the most functional for her education. So at some point we decided that no, we didn't want to go with functional classroom training, but to continue with reading. So we adjusted her schedule to support that reading piece. And I do have to say, I think we were right in that she's quite a good reader. She reads at approximately a fourth grade level with 80% comprehension, and it's because we insisted on reading as being a forefront all the way through 12th grade. If you don't agree with something in the IEP, ask for an explanation. Give them your input, suggestions. Ask, is this something we could try? One of the goals on my daughter's IEP in all through elementary school was tying her shoes. It was there for 5 years. At one point I said, really, she's not going to live or die if she can't tie her shoes, and thank goodness we have Velcro. Can we take that off as a goal and because she's probably not going to meet that goal. And OT and PT both agreed that, yeah, okay, let's work on other things. Well, of course, within, I think it was 6 weeks, she could tie her shoes. But this was something that I just didn't see as a reasonable goal and objective as a learning process. Other things I had heard from other parents, other teachers, on a certain modification or a process in reading, and have asked, is this something we could try? I've heard that other teachers have tried it with success, and I was told, yeah, we could try it, and all I asked for was, could we try it? How long can we try it for? And how are we going to get the results? Did this work or not? Math was another one that she really struggled with and kept some of those real basic math goals for many, many years. But once they were addressed in another way, she seemed to catch on a little better. So it was just even saying, we've had these same math goals for 2 years and I'm not seeing much improvement. What other things do you think we could do in the classroom, or what other support could we offer our daughter to help her understand math better? Again, put a time limit on it and set up how the information will be shared with you and with other staff. My daughter ended up going to a general ed reading group for half the reading time and then to a special ed reading group. So I wanted to make sure that the gen ed teacher and the special ed teacher were sharing information about her progress in reading. So again, pick those important things. What's important to you and to your child's education? I know one family that I've talked with, their son was in junior high and he loved band. It was just his thing. He was really having a lot of social interaction. He was with peers. He loved the music. And they wanted to schedule his pull out for reading during band. Well, when the family said that, no, that was really important, and could we look at scheduling and see something else that might work? It took a couple of meetings, but they were able to do that. Their son was much happier in band, and his reading skills were not impaired because he didn't get that additional scoop of reading instead of band, because he found what was important to her. Goals and objectives. Keep your conversation based on goals and objectives. So if you want to talk about something, then refer to a goal and objective. Remember, this is an education-based meeting. Their goal is to educate your child. So are these goals effective and attainable? Do you understand how the goals will be measured and shared? So if this is a goal and an objective and they're working toward it and your child is not making progress in it, the question might be, well, how is this objective and goal measured? How do we know that she's not making progress or is making progress? Or can we move from that goal because that goal looks like it's been met? So again, it's using the language that you have in the IEP, always referring to questions that you have regarding a goal and objective, and you should be able to have a good discussion with the rest of your IEP meeting. At the IEP meeting, at the end, ask when you'll receive the proposed IEP. Remember, we had stated that this was a draft IEP. When they make all the additions, corrections, and changes, then it's a proposed IEP. And it's proposed until you sign it. And what are the timelines for your signature and implementation? Some IEPs can be implemented without your signature. So if you, go back to that Minnesota Department of Education site, it will list out when all of those are, or ask your case manager, if I don't sign this, what happens next? And they'll be able to outline everything for you. Don't sign anything at this meeting. This is proposed. You need to be able to review this, ask for corrections and additions, and then ask, when will I get the final document to review and choose to sign or not, and return to you. As changes are made, it's very important that you are aware of how any school staff will be made aware of the IEP content and how it will be implemented. In one situation with my daughter was, it came down to going through the lunch line and the lunch ladies being aware of who she was and what her food choices needed to be. And so she made a great friendship with the lunch ladies, and because we included them in our discussion and needs, they were aware of it and more than willing to accommodate our needs. It was a good feeling when that happened. Again, at the end of the meeting, determine how the communication will continue and with whom. So if you have a question or you had wanted to add something to the IEP, you'll know who that person is that will make those decisions. Get that phone number, especially if it's a direct number, correct email, address, a fax number if you need to send in a doctor's report or a permission slip of some sort, or something that you can share information. And ask if they can receive scanned documents too. Also ask, when will you get, when can you expect a response? I think too, to thank everyone at the meeting for their time. They are participating, and yes, they are doing their job, but there are people that you're working with, that you as a group are working forward to make your child's education a good thing. So if you have a specific question or need, make sure that you ask them and contact them and how to contact them. So support for you and your family. Family Voices Minnesota has a great parent-to-parent program called Connected. You can contact us at this website or call us on our toll-free number, and we'll be happy to listen to what your needs are and match you up with another family that has been through similar needs, so that you have that one-on-one person to talk with, questions to ask, and they will be there to support and guide you and empower you to be able to ask those questions and get answers. So give us a call at Family Voices Minnesota, and we can get you connected with Connected. So our goal is to get from here on the left, yep, those are my 2 kids and their cousins in 1998, and we got from there to on the right, graduation with Grandma. It was a great day. It was a lot of fun. We can do it, and we can do it with support and love and lots of good communication. So if anyone has any questions at the time,
the conference is no longer in listen-only mode.
So you've been unmuted and can ask questions or type in, or always know that you can contact us at Family Voices too if you have a very specific question and want to talk with someone who may have some support for you on that.
So Rebecca, we do have one question that was typed in, which
okay.
is how long does the average IEP meeting take? Our meetings have been scheduled anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes, and it always makes me feel rushed. Any suggestions on how to get staff to allow or schedule more time?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, I think after you've had those first few IEP meetings and you realize 60 minutes or 30 minutes isn't going to do it, when you do that invitation and all to set up the meeting, ask to schedule a 60-minute meeting. A lot of places, a lot of schools need to schedule in the conference room or whatever. So yes, everyone may kind of feel like they need to be moved out at the end of the time. I've also requested a 75-minute meeting, which they didn't really want to request or fulfill my request, but I said, but if it's scheduled and we go over, everyone has the time to do that. So I had, especially at transition times, elementary school to junior high to senior high to transition 18 to 21. Those meetings I did ask for a little additional time. Something else that I've asked for too was when this happens so often, you know, one teacher will stop in, well, I can just stop in for a minute, so I want to be first. You should be able to direct that in that when that invitation to the meeting goes out, that if you only have a certain amount of time and want to be first on the agenda, please let me know when that time is and who you are. So you can have those questions ready for that teacher or staff person while they're there. Ideally, all staff stay for the whole meeting, but I understand that doesn't always happen. So if her gen ed teacher can only be there for the first 20 minutes, then I would want to make sure that asking specifically for those questions about inclusion and participation in the general ed classroom, I would be able to ask those at the time that her gen ed teacher was there. Oh, the question was, what's average? I would say about an hour is average.
So we had a comment that from someone that said you can also ask to reschedule a continuation of the meeting before anyone leaves the room.
That's correct. And a continuation is a separate process from a new or different IEP. A continuation, then you don't have to refile any of the paperwork. It would just be continued either at another time or in another place or with additional people. So yes, that's a great way to go if things are, the schedule's not quite working out or you're not getting to talk with the people you'd like, then ask for a continuation. Make sure you ask for that, everyone to get out their calendars right then, and what would be a good date and time to choose it right there if possible, and then to be able to schedule that. You can readjust your agenda at that time too, that for a continuation, you'd be able to talk about the points that you want to at a continuation meeting.
Great. We have another question. can I bring a friend, even if it's not a direct family member, along with me for some extra support or to take notes for me?
Absolutely. I would strongly encourage that. It does not need to be a family member, and the school district cannot dictate to you who you invite or don't invite. Unless there's a restraining order or something like that, yeah, then you'd have to. But yes, it can be anybody that you want there, and I think if it's that good friend or whoever that you're comfortable with and know that they're there to support you and help you listen and take notes, someone maybe you can kind of debrief with afterwards so you have that comfort level of knowing what you talked about and what you covered. So yes, when you fill out that form that says people you want to attend at the IEP meeting, you just put that person's name down, and the school district cannot refute who you invite.
Another question that came up is, do you ever sign the IEP at the meeting? It seems as though I'm expected to sign the document right after the meeting is finished.
Oh, I shouldn't laugh, but that happens so often. No, my recommendation is do not sign anything at the IEP meeting. The school district should be coming to you with a draft, saying this is what we're presenting, whatever. You should have input, questions. You should have been able to review it so you know what the discussion is. If there are any changes, which most likely there will be, then they need to redraft the IEP and either send it to you or you can pick it up or whatever. Then you review it again for any changes, that those changes are correct, that deadlines, goals, and objectives are all what you had discussed about. Then you can sign. Just know to ask, when do I need to have this signature on this IEP that I'm signing for? When do I have to have it returned? But no, don't sign it at the meeting. It'd be like signing a contract to buy a new car and not knowing what any of the terms were. You need to know what's in that IEP, and there shouldn't be any surprises.
Great, thank you. We have another question. Oh, go ahead.
This is Kelly Coswell. I have a question. So my son has an existing IEP. He's at a level 1 and 2 elementary school for public. This is a question. So you already have the IEP up and ready to go. The school district says the first day of school they have to figure out how many kids are in the system or have IEPs before they'll roll out a schedule. Can you say a couple things about that?
Sure can. That happens quite often. For me to address that, I found that the beginning of August, I would contact my principal, the school principal that I knew my daughter, she was going to be at that school, and ask where they were with scheduling. Schools start working on this at the end of the previous school year. I did work for a district administrative office. I know this is a pretty standard practice. They work on it, and then yes, they do need to adjust things according to their school census as kids come in and leave. But to wait for the first day of school for final numbers on a census and a classroom, teachers, and paraprofessionals, I don't think that's reasonable. I think if you, the beginning of August, talk to your principal and or case manager. There are times a case manager hasn't been assigned yet. But let your school principal know that for your child, for anxiety, for whatever issues, that you would like to know the school schedule as soon as possible.
Rebecca, are you there? Well, unfortunately, I think we've lost Rebecca. So I will have Rebecca respond to or finish responding to the question that was just asked. And then we have one additional question, and I will send those responses out to everyone who's on the call. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to email or call us. I believe that Rebecca gave our number. I'll put it back up here on the screen. Our toll-free number is 866-334-8444. And please feel free to give us a call. Rebecca's direct email is Rebecca, REBECCA, at familyvoicesmn.org. Thank you so much for joining our call today. And please remember to try to fill out the evaluation at the end of the recording. So thank you so much, and I hope that you can join us for our next webinar, which will be on August 16th. Thank you so much.